is how easy and affordable it is to advertise with us. Radio commercials for your business could be heard on hundreds of radio stations across the U.S. every day. We can help you by creating an effective radio advertising campaign for your company. From script writing to producing your commercial, just like the one you're listening to right now. No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
We live in a complicated society. Stressful issues are always popping up. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone? Have you ever been overcharged for a repair? Have you ever signed a contract or a document worried about identity theft? How many times have you been in those unique situations where you just wanted to call an attorney to find out if you're right or wrong, or what your legal rights are? But every time you think about calling an attorney, what do you think about first? That's right. Who do you call, and how much will it cost? Our friends at Legal Shield have found a solution. With a nationwide network of 6,900 attorneys who average 19 years of experience, Legal Shield's law firms take over 40,000 calls per week helping their members. For less than $20 per month, you can have access to Legal Shield on everything from the trivial to the traumatic. Let Legal Shield stand up for your rights at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com. Or call 855-340-SAVE, 855-340-7283.
Results will vary from case to case.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100 foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Headlines, suspensions, FCC investigations. That's Mancow for you. Hear him here. G.
Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So delving into this interesting article in The Daily Beast, inspired by British intelligence, perhaps. The story of how Sony turned to the State Department, the U.S. government, and the RAND Corporation. The RAND Corporation, of course, the old United States Strategic Bombing Survey, the Bland Corporation of Dr. Strangelove, you know. The drill, it is, if not the brain or the heart of the U.S. intelligence community, it's the liver or the stomach. It's a vital organ. So this guy, Bruce Bennett, after viewing the head explosion, he says, I have briefed my book on preparing for the possibility of a North Korean collapse. I have been clear that the assassination of Kim Jong-un is the most likely path to a collapse of the North Korean government. Thus, while toning down the ending may reduce the North Korean response, I believe that a story that talks about the removal of the Kim family and the creation of a new government by the North Korean people, and then he says in Paris, well, at least by the elites, yeah, right, will start some real thinking in South Korea, I believe in the North, once the DVD leaks into the North, which it almost certainly will. So from a personal perspective, I would personally, a radical subjectivist, he wants you to know, I would personally prefer to leave the ending alone. And this guy Linton writes back, Bruce, I spoke to someone very senior in the State Department today. He agreed with everything you have been saying. Well, it really does then look as if this piece of trash, right, this piece of garbage, right, the Goebbels style of a movie, that this was actually coordinated with the U.S. government. It's nothing to do with free speech. There's no First Amendment here. And what could it be? Well, I have to go back to my... I made a communication to the Hollywoodism conference in Tehran at the beginning of 2012, in which I pointed this out, that the Santa Monica headquarters of the Rand Corporation are so close to Hollywood that it's just about impossible to imagine that there's not some kind of a symbiosis. And now we have, if we needed it, we now have proof positive that this is the case, right? So the Rand Corporation. Let me see if I can find you some quotes from this article of mine. I'll do that while we push on. Then the other angle, of course, is the Gordon Chang of Forbes magazine, and he's on TV saying, look, the internet connections of North Korea, DPRK, all go through China. So therefore, he says, those Chinese, they are complicit. They furnished the technology for this, right? This is all the Chinese, and therefore we've got to get rid of them. So, well, this is not good. And here we go. Here's what I write about in this. Where did American movies come from? And I show this question of about 1,000 writers over a period of 2 to 3 years, perhaps 500 is an upper estimate, write these movies. How do some of these 500 or so top writers manage to incorporate terror scenarios into movies? Nobody knows for sure, but one institution of interest might be the Rand Corporation of Santa Monica, California, by the Pacific Ocean on the western edge of Los Angeles, and thus very close to Hollywood. It's the Strategic Bombing Survey. It became famous thanks to Herman Kahn with the world targets in megadeaths. Bland Corporation, writing a recent account of Rand, or reviewing a recent account of Rand by Alex Abella. The Washington Post wrote, those who remember the Cold War will doubtless be familiar with the Rand Corporation, the think tank in sunny Santa Monica that Soviet propagandists branded as the Academy of Science and Death. And, then there is the case of Amy Pascal, currently co-chair of Sony Pictures Entertainment, a company which controls a substantial slice of Hollywood, including Columbia Pictures, Screen Gems, Sony Pictures Animation, TriStar Pictures. Amy Pascal has been the prime mover behind the cult movie The Da Vinci Code, which represents an attack on religion, specifically Christianity, from the point of view of atheism, paganism, or something worse. She restarted the Bond movies in 2005. Well, Amy Pascal, one of the top people in Washington, in Hollywood, has been on the board of the Rand Corporation. So how about that? Let's just check again exactly when. Let's just check the Amy Pascal. Amy Pascal, one of the bosses of Sony, has served on the board of trustees of the Rand Corporation in recent years. Oh my God! And this was written in January of 2012. January 2012. Hollywood's War Propaganda by yours truly, Dr. Webster G. Tarpley, Ph.D. So let's not hear about free speech. Let's forget it. This is an inside job. This stinks to high heaven. Now, let's push ahead. Naturally, in the case of Cuba, we're all for normalization. We are against embargoes and economic warfare and sanctions in principle. There may be some rationale for regulating the trade of certain weapons systems. That's a different story. But anything normal, food, clothing, shelter, fuel, energy, equipment, machinery, all of that should flow freely. We need world economic development. But notice, of course, the reactionaries are coming out in droves for this thing. I would simply suggest, if you want to see how you bring down a dictatorship in a reasonable way, go back to the DDR, right? East Germany. And East Germany, of course, was a very oppressive dictatorship, and thousands of people proved how oppressive they found this by leaving, and leaving in a sort of routine way until 1961 with the Berlin Wall. But then after that, risking their lives to get shot by automatic shooting devices, automatic machine guns, shotguns, in the German border and the Berlin to the West Berlin to DDR border and the West Berlin to East Berlin border. So this was oppressive. And how did that come down? Well, it started in Leipzig, didn't it? And it started in Leipzig because Leipzig was the home of the Leipzig Trade Fair, the Leipziger Messe. So the Leipzig Trade Fair brought in all kinds of foreign influences. And then when the vigils, the candlelight vigils started in the late 80s, well, that's where it started. So if you want to contribute to a gradual and reasonable liberalization, let's say, of the Castro regime, you probably want to do that by increased trade, not by collapse. Obama is quite sound. You don't want to collapse because out of that can come God knows what. But now let's recall ourselves. The Pope was absolutely key in setting up this opening. And what I would say is one of the most hopeful signs here at the end of the year is that Pope Francis is on the go. One of the things he did is, I'm sure he can see, with all of his Vatican intelligence and nuncios and Vatican diplomatic corps, he can see that people like Allen and Kerry and Rice and Samantha Power, and I'm afraid Robert Malley now too, they're all pushing Obama over the precipice of war. And they've done it quite successfully in the Ukrainian area, right? He's gone out way too far. Less so with Syria. But the Pope is pulling Obama away from the edge of the abyss, and we need to support that. So here's what I would point to. Remember that the Pope has fired one of the most reactionary of all the cardinals, Cardinal Raymond Burke from Wisconsin, the John Birch Society cardinal, I would call him. That guy has been fired, but he's still blabbing. He's still talking to Le Figaro. My guess is that Burke is trying to activate the Monsignor Lefebvre group, who gave such a hard time to Paul VI in the 60s and 70s. And then, what I want to focus on in the next segment, the Philippic by Pope Francis against the bureaucrats of the Vatican Curia Romana, the cardinals there in Rome. We'll get to that in just a second. World Crisis Radio, gosh, it's the end of our Between the Years broadcast already. We'll be back with more guests and interviews next week. And remember, please just save the date at this point, 23rd, 24th, 25th of January here in Washington, D.C. And please don't forget to send those greetings to Reverend Pinckney, who's currently held incommunicado, more or less, in Jackson, Michigan. But now, the Pope. Okay, so the Pope pulling Obama away from the precipice of war, the way I see it, countering these lunatic warmongers, the humanitarian bombers in the administration and the neocons in and around the administration. Firing this Cardinal Raymond Burke, that's the way to go. Get rid of some of these people. The American Catholic bishops are, in general, one of the worst parts of the Catholic Church. Almost anything is better. American priests are better. American, foreign prelates can also be quite decent, but not these American bishops. And Cardinal Burke, I take it, although now a cardinal or was a cardinal, this is not good. And here's the idea. 22nd of December, in the Clementine Hall in the Vatican, Pope Francis came out and exchanged Christmas greetings with the members of the various congregations. Now, the congregations are the executive departments, right? The ministries. So it's a whole bunch of cardinals, archbishops, bishops, monsignori, and so forth. And here's the Philippic. The Curia means this court, right? The Roman court, meaning now all of these church officials, is always required to better itself and to grow in communion, sanctity, and wisdom. But here are the problems. I can't give the whole list, but the sickness of considering yourself immortal, immune, or indispensable, and neglecting the controls on that. You've got to be self-critical. It's the sickness of the rich fool who thinks that he will live for all eternity, and of those who transform themselves into masters and believe